Business won one of its largest clients of the year. 17 days later, the client sent a 5-word email. Have we made a mistake? Sales blames delivery. Delivery blames the handover. Finance, still resolving terms everyone thought had already been agreed. The problem, not effort. Nobody owned the work between yes and go. In this episode, I'm going to show you the 5-step reset I use to find exactly where work is stopping and get one important outcome moving within 30 days. And step 4 is the one that tells you whether your business genuinely has a people problem or whether leadership created the failure. This is a fictionalized example based on real business problems that I have seen. The results are composite, however, the pattern is real. I have seen versions of this repeatedly in growing businesses. I simply change it to protect my clients. So the company had just signed a major account. Sales had done its job. The contract was signed, the announcement had gone out, then the work entered the gap between functions. Delivery did not have the final scope. Finance was still questioning a commercial exception. The implementation lead had not yet been assigned, and the promised start date had never been tested against capacity. Over the next 17 days, the business held 4 internal meetings and copied increasingly senior people into the problem. And the client? They still didn't have a confirmed kickoff date. The CEO thought delivery was too slow. Delivery thought sales was selling work it could not hand over. Sales thought the business needed another project manager. Everyone had a plausible diagnosis. Nobody had followed the work. The pain appeared at the end. The cause was sitting much further upstream. There was no single owner. There was no definition of a complete handover. There were no pre-agreed decision rights for common exceptions. The business had people working on the account. It did not have controlled movement. And that distinction really does matter, because when activity is mistaken for movement, leaders tend to add a little bit more activity. Could look like another meeting, another update, another person, another piece of software. Then the business becomes more expensive without becoming faster. The answer was not more pressure. It was a controlled workflow, a complete handover standard, clear ownership, decision thresholds, and a short review rhythm that made the delay visible. The method that I call is reset. Reveal the real constraint, establish the priority, set the owner, the standard, and the decision rights, enable the work, track the follow through. Each step answers a different question: where the work is stopping, what must move now, who owns it, whether delivery has been enabled, and how progress will be proved. And the order matters. Skip 1 and the reset becomes just another initiative that the business was briefly excited about. But before I break down the first step, I just want to ask a quick favor. Subscribe to the Glass Signal now. Every week I show you how to fix the leadership, people, and execution problems quietly costing growing businesses time, talent, and money. And if you're responsible for making a business perform, subscribe. Let's get into it. Step 1, reveal the constraint. The constraint rarely has the loudest complaint. It is the point that controls the speed of the outcome. Until you find it, every solution is still a guess. In this case, the visible problem was a delayed client kickoff. The first explanations were very familiar. Delivery was too slow, sales needed to communicate better, the company needed more capacity. But when the work was mapped from signed contract to delivery, the delay became obvious. The account could not move because it arrived without the information, approvals, ownership required to start. That is a different problem. You add pressure, hire more capacity, or schedule another meeting, all 3 responses can fail while the handover still remains broken. So what do? Follow the work. Where does it wait? Where does it reverse? Where is information recreated because the previous version cannot be trusted? Where does a decision travel upwards because no one knows who can make it? Where does work sit inside an inbox relying on somebody remembering? Then name the constraint in one sentence. An example. Client kickoff is delayed because every delivery receives incomplete scope and commercial information and no one owns resolving exceptions before handover. Compared with what I often hear, we need better collaboration. One gives you something to operate on, the other is a complaint wearing a fancy suit. Before moving on, ask, are we fixing the point where the pain appears or the point where progress usually stops? Step 2, establish the priority. So this second step is where ambitious leadership teams usually sabotage themselves. They finally see what's broken, so they approve everything. What you end up with is 12 priorities, 9 work streams, 6 projects commencing immediately. That's not a reset. That is panic with a project plan. A priority is not simply something important. Plenty of things are important. A priority is the outcome receiving disproportionate focus right now. For the next 30 days, choose one outcome that must move and no more than 3 actions that directly support it. For this business, the outcome became reduce the time from signed contract to confirmed kickoff from 17 days to 5. The 3 supporting actions were create 1 complete handover standard, pre-approve decision thresholds for common commercial exceptions, assign the delivery owner and provisional kickoff date when the contract is signed. It did not include transforming the entire customer experience, replacing the CRM, or fixing communication across the entire business. Those things may matter. They do not all need to become this month's emergency. Ask, what must be observably different 30 days from now? Not discussed, not designed, not nearly finished, different. Step 3, set the owner, the standard, and the decision rights. Step 3 is where shared accountability becomes no accountability. A lot of businesses confuse involvement with ownership. 5 people attend, 4 functions contribute, everyone agrees that the client matters, and no one owns getting it from contract kickoff. One outcome needs one accountable owner. Other people can complete parts of the work, but one person must answer what has moved, what is blocked, what decision is required, and what happens next. For this reset, the head of delivery owned the end-to-end result. Sales remained responsible for submitting the complete commercial and scope information. Finance was consulted only when an exception crossed an agreed threshold, and the CEO was removed from routine decisions entirely. Then the business defined complete. A handover could not enter delivery without the signal scope confirmed, commercial terms, customer contacts, implementation required, and a named internal owner with a provisional start date. That standard removed the weekly argument about what people thought had already been provided. Then came the decision rights. So what could the head of delivery approve? Which exception required finance? What risk or margin threshold genuinely required the CEO? A decision right is a pre-agreed answer to a predictable question. It stops the business rediscovering its hierarchy every time something unusually different happens. Ownership without authority is theatre, but ownership and authority are still not enough. The next step is where you find out whether the business has set someone up to perform or merely made the blame easier to allocate. Step 4, enable the work. This is the intellectual center of the reset. Before calling something an attitude, capability, or performance problem, check whether the role has been designed to succeed. Consider a strong operator who has just been promoted to management. Yesterday, they were responsible for their own output. Today, they are expected to coach people, manage conflict, protect standards, understand the numbers, and communicate change. They still carry most of their old workload. They receive little training, meaningful decisions are taken back by their manager, and then a few months later, someone says they're just not showing enough initiative. Where exactly was the initiative meant to fit? Before concluding that someone cannot perform, ask whether the outcome is clear, the capability exists, the time and tools are available, the authority is real, and the dependency are explicit. The accountability formula I use is very simple. Expectations, enablement, follow through. If the expectation is unclear, people guess. If enablement is missing, good people struggle inside a bad system. If follow through disappears, the priority becomes another announcement that everybody learns to ignore. This does not mean supporting people indefinitely whilst results remain optimal. Once the standard is clear, the required authority and resources are in place, and the person has had a fair opportunity to deliver, you may expose a genuine capability or performance problem. High care does not mean avoiding that conclusion. It means earning the right to reach it. In the client handover reset, enablement meant one handover template, one source of truth, a short briefing for sales and delivery, and written approval thresholds. No one had to remember any new philosophy. They needed a process that they could actually use on a busy Tuesday. Step 5, track the follow through. The final step is why most resets disappear within a fortnight. The leadership team has a good meeting, they send out the document, then assumes the change is underway. Then ordinary business returns. A status update tells you what someone has been doing. A progress review tells you whether the outcome has moved. And research supports that distinction. A 2006 meta-analysis published in Psychological Bulletin found that interventions increasing progress monitoring improved goal attainment with stronger effects when progress was recorded or reported publicly. So for 30 days, run a short weekly review focused only on the outcome. Ask, what changed? What evidence proves it? What is blocked? And what happens next? By whom and by when? The measures were simple. Days to confirm kickoff, complete handovers on first submission, and commercial exceptions waiting for approval. No historical tour, no long explanation of how busy everyone's week was. Evidence, blockage, decision, next move. Beautiful. If the outcome is off track, resist taking it back. Ask what the owner recommends, which decision they need, and which dependency has not yet been met. Then hold the line on the standard. That is how people build judgment. They make decisions, see the consequence, and return with the next move. People do not build judgment by watching the most senior person run in and rescue the work every Friday afternoon. In this composite scenario, the next comparable client moved from contract to a confirmed kickoff in 4 working days. Routine commercial exceptions no longer reached the CEO, and when a handover was incomplete, everyone could see exactly what was missing and who needed to act. The business did not suddenly acquire more talented people. It stopped making capable people work around an under-designed system. So what will the reset expose? After 30 days, one of 3 things is usually going to be true. 1, the system was blocking capable people, and removing the constraint created movement. 2, the reset exposed a deeper skill or capacity gap that now needs investment. Or 3, someone had the clarity, authority, and support required and still didn't meet the standard. All 3 answers are valuable. What is expensive is remaining unable to tell the difference, because a blocked handover delays revenue and damages trust before the relationship has properly started. Blocked decisions turn senior leaders into approval queues. Blocked recruitment creates vacancies, overtime, and rushed hires. And when those problems are compounded, leaders begin asking good people to work around the business rather than through it. That is the broken glass paradox in practice. Leaders or businesses ask people to crawl over broken glass for the mission whilst continuing to leave broken glass in the path. The reset removes the glass. It does not ask people to become better at bleeding. A reset will create discomfort. Some projects may need to be paused. Some decisions need to leave certain committees or tiger teams. Some leaders need to own outcomes they previously discussed from a very safe distance. Some standards will expose performance that ambiguity had protected. That discomfort is not proof the reset was wrong. It is often proof that it has reached the real problem. So the challenge that I'm going to put forward to you. Tomorrow morning, choose one business outcome that has remained stuck for at least 30 days. Map the work from the point that it begins to the point that value is delivered, and circle every place it waits, reverses, escalates, or requires rework. Write the real constraint in one sentence. Then set one 30-day outcome, one owner, the standard, the decision rights, and the support required. Review it weekly using evidence. Do not launch 5 resets at once. That would be a remarkably on-brand way to recreate the problem. Start with 1. Prove that the business can move deliberately, then repeat the method. If you cannot tell which of these 5 steps is breaking down in your business, do not guess. Take the broken glass test. It will show you whether leadership, decisions, capability, accountability, or signal is slowing performance before you invest in another hire, restructure, tech platform, or strategy day aimed at the wrong problem. The link is below. And in the next episode, I want to explain why even a good reset fails when leaders want leadership to feel exciting. Most effective leadership is repetitive, disciplined, and frankly, quite boring. That is exactly why so many leaders get it wrong.